Hey, hi, hello. We're into it. Fourth quarter vocabulary. Let's get it done. Can you go into the vocab section? At this point, you have all of your vocabulary, and you should also have kind of a line where you have clicked, dragged, and then gone up into this three dot section and then filled it to make it really clear. Okay, cool. This is our last fourth quarter vocab. You're going to want six tabs, or six lines. So go ahead and hit that tab button so you can get there. Let's get into it. New unit, new vocab. And I actually kind of want to start us with like a bit of a puzzle. So we're moving into this unit. Whose school? Education, resilience, and injustice in fiction and memoir. And we're going to be talking a lot about what is the purpose of school? What are we doing here? Are we really achieving what we're meant to be achieving, or is what we're meant to be achieving ultimately kind of flawed? So I wanted to start us off with this dictionary definition of education. You're going to write down a definition in a minute, but even within that, there's such a tension. Look at these two different definitions. One, the process of receiving or giving systematic instruction, especially at a school or university. So it's like there's got to be a building and there's got to be systematic instruction. English 1 leads to English 2 leads to English 3 leads to English 4, right? Look at this other definition. An enlightening experience. Like a day with those kids was an education in patience and forbearance, right? Both of these things are true. It's not that one is true over the other, but you can see already the tension even just within the definition of this term education. And that's going to be really the heart of this new unit. Like, what does it mean to have an education? And are we doing it, really? So can you take a second here? I kind of tried to blend the two. Can you go ahead and write out the definition here for education, the act or process of imparting or acquiring particular knowledge or skills? Maybe it's a life skill you learned from dating that terrible person, or maybe it is a practical skill that you learned from your graphic design class. Go ahead and write that down real fast. You get a little preview of the words to come. We're going to stay really based in school. We've got a couple of repeat terms here. Green terms you don't need to write again. Remember, they're repeat, but they are going to give you a little bit of like a flavor of what's to come. Bias, mentor. We've talked about this in terms of an archetype, but we're really going to talk about it in terms of a role in our lives throughout this. And then metacognition, thinking about thinking. So let's get into it with school, with curriculum standardization. Let's talk about school. All right, school. Maybe it looks like this, but just within even that definition of education, could it look like this? Have you been to outdoor school? Could it look like this? Could it look like this? Could it look like this? Take a moment, write down our definition for school, an institution where instruction is given, especially to persons under college age. Often above college age or college age, we call it like academia. You could also think of school as a verb, to school someone, right? I got schooled in Farm Autobots, whatever that game is called that you all keep trying to teach me and I keep failing at, right? Right now we're writing down the noun for school. Okay, let's talk about curriculum. The lessons and academic content taught in a school or in a particular course or program. It's the what of it. Here's a quick little screenshot of our syllabus. That's always like one of the first things linked in our modules. That outlines the curriculum. In the very beginning of the year, late August, I said, hey, this is what we're going to do. It's also what you see when you go into Synergy and you see, do you see all those little like numbers there, like letters and numbers, L4, RL2, W3? These are state standards, and we'll talk more about those in a little bit, Common Core state standards, and they help map out the curriculum. What is the what that we are teaching or learning there? Okay, speaking of Common Core state standards, let's talk about standardization next. So to standardize something is to change multiple things, grades, products, curriculum, to make it fit a certain guideline or expectation, to make it the same. Now this is a theme, I think, or really a motif that you're going to pick up on here real fast, but let's take a look at these two different examples and What I want you to start thinking about are what are the similarities between these two systems? Because if you start to think about it, there's actually kind of quite a lot. So here's a quick standardized definition from dictionary.com. To bring or make of an established standard size, weight, quality, strength. You can see like a manufacture line, and all those products are chugging on down the manufacture line here, right? Down they go. We're making sure that they all have the same contents. And in some ways, that's what school is asking you to do, right? To standardize something is to make it fit a certain guideline or requirement. If they standardize a grading system, you've probably heard a lot about standardized tests throughout, where everybody's given the same test. We talked about equality versus equity a little bit in this class in the very beginning of the year, piecing me together stuff. But when you think about standardize, I'm going to ask you to think about school, but I don't want you to forget about our friend here in the factory line, because you, my friend, might also be the product. Can you go ahead and write down our definition for curriculum and standardization now and come up with a related example or image? All right, welcome back. So we've got two more, punitive and resilience. And these are just terms that I think are going to come up as we dive into it. You're going to learn about your characters, whether they're fictional or whether they're actual, depending if you're reading a fiction book or a memoir. You're going to watch them and read about them experiencing punitive moments in school and then demonstrating resilience. So punitive is inflicting or intended as punishment. Oftentimes we think about this like punitive damages. You hit somebody with your car, and then you have to pay them some money to cover their hospital bills and the stress of being hit by a car, right? Punitive damages. But punitive could also be something that happens in school, right? Some of you had some horror stories of getting in trouble at school in that very first unit when you were writing your childhood memories, right? These are punitive tactics to perhaps advocate for, align for standardization in behavior, in skills, and curriculum. And then resilience, the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, toughness. Sometimes we talk about it like grit, but it's a little bit more than grit, right? Grit says, no matter what, keep going. And that's useful. But resilience acknowledges, hey, there's some real barriers out there, whether they are systemic, whether they are cultural, whether they're institutional, whether they're internalized. But resilience is a skill that you can develop, and we wax and wane through these skills all the time, that makes you more comfortable with being uncomfortable, that makes you willing to come back to school the next day, even after the day before you got that bad grade on your English paper, and you came back to say, hey, Miss K, can I make revisions on this? That is resilience. I got two resilience quotes for you to close out. One is from Maya Angelou. I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it. So it's not about the outside, it's about what's going on inside and how can we cultivate this resilience to make sure that it doesn't diminish who we are as people. And then a quote from Amanda Ripley, resilience is a precious skill. People who have it have three advantages: a belief they can influence life events, a tendency to find meaning and purpose in life's turmoil, and a conviction they can learn from positive and negative experiences. And I don't want you to walk away thinking you either have resilience or you don't, and you'll watch the characters in your books flow in and out of these states all of the time. What we want to think about for our characters, for ourselves, is how do we cultivate resilience? How do we grow that even just little by little in our daily experiences, both with school and with our own lives? All right, can you go ahead and write down our definition for resilience now? And I'll see you in class.